The night market of the alien colony was loud with voices. Traders shouted their prices. Children ran between the stalls and bright lamps glowed on every corner. But in one dark corner, away from the light, a tall shadow hid. She was bigger than most of her kind, her body broad, her height almost touching the tent roof and her steps always heavy. The others called her useless. They laughed at her size. They said no male would ever want her. Her heart carried those cruel words like chains. She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders and lowered her head, hoping no one would see her. She only came out at night when the crowd was busy, hoping she could buy some food before the market closed. Still, whispers followed her. Too big. Not breeding material. Monster. Her people never let her forget her shame. In that moment, she felt the sting of tears. Her chest hurt as if her heart was too heavy. She turned away from the stalls and pressed her back against the wall. Her whisper escaped her lips. I wish I was smaller, I wish I was normal. But she was not alone. A man had noticed her. A human, his skin pale in the glow of the lamps, his eyes sharp but kind. He was not from this colony. He was a traveler, a trader passing through carrying strange tools and supplies. He had seen many things in his life, but the sadness in her eyes made him stop. He stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "Why do you hide your face?" he asked softly. She froze. Her heart beat fast. No one had ever spoken to her gently before. She expected him to laugh, to mock, or to join the others in calling her names. Instead, his voice carried warmth. "You shouldn't stand in the dark. Like this," he continued. "You look like you don't belong here." Her throat tightened. She wanted to push him away, to protect herself from more hurt, but something inside her cracked. The words slipped out of her mouth before she could stop them. "I'm too big," she whispered. "I'm not breeding." Material. The words were heavy. Her voice trembled as if speaking them made her shame real again. Her eyes looked down, unable to meet his. For a moment, there was silence. The sounds of the market faded behind them. She waited for his laughter, for the cruelty she knew would come, but instead he said, "Who told you that?" Her eyes lifted, shocked. His face was calm, not mocking, not cruel. She almost couldn't believe it. He was asking as if he cared, as if her pain mattered. "My people," she said bitterly. "They laugh at me. They say no male would choose me. They say my body is wrong. I am too large, too heavy, too different." Her voice cracked. "I will never be a mother. I will never be wanted." The human's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his side. He had seen cruelty before, but something about this cut deeper. He looked at her, not as a giant or an outcast, but as someone who was broken by the words of her own people. "You believe them?" he asked quietly. She blinked, her lips trembled. I have no choice. I live with their voices every day." His eyes softened. He stepped closer until he stood in front of her. She towered over him, but somehow his presence felt stronger. "Listen to me," he said, his voice firm. "Your body is not wrong, and you are not worthless." Her breath caught. The warmth of his words pierced the cold she had lived with for so long. She wanted to believe him, but fear held her back. What if he was lying? What if he only pitied her? The crowd behind them grew louder. A group of aliens passing by glanced in their direction. One of them snorted, pointing at her. "Look, the giant hides again." Another laughed. "Even the human won't want her." Her face burned with shame. She turned to walk away, but the human stepped between her and the crowd, his eyes hard, his voice strong. "Enough," he said sharply. "Leave her alone." The group froze, shocked that a human would defend her. Murmurs spread through the market. Some laughed, some whispered, some stared in disbelief. She stood still, her heart pounding. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever raised their voice to protect her. The human turned back to her, his expression softer now. "Don't let them decide your worth," he said gently. "They don't see you, but I do." Her throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her as if she mattered. She didn't know what to say. She only whispered again. But this time, her voice was not bitter. It was fragile, hopeful. Why? Why do you care? The human smiled faintly. Because I know what it feels like to be judged, to be told you're not enough. His eyes held hers, steady and honest. And I won't let them break you. Her heart shook. The market noises blurred around her. All she could hear was his voice. All she could feel was the strange warmth spreading inside her. For years she believed she was too big, too wrong, too useless. But tonight a single human's words cracked the chains of shame she carried. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thought echoed in her chest. Maybe I am not as worthless as they said. Maybe I am more. The night after the human spoke to her, the tall alien woman sat inside her small shelter made of broken wood and cloth. She hugged her knees close to her chest, replaying his words in her mind. Your body is not wrong, and you are not worthless. She had heard thousands of cruel words in her life, but those few kind ones were sharper than anything. They cut through her loneliness. She wanted to believe them, but fear and doubt still clung to her heart like chains. The next morning, she gathered her courage and stepped into the marketplace again. She needed food, she needed to live, as always. Her sighs drew eyes, heads turned, voices whispered, children pointed at her, and their mothers pulled them away as if she was dangerous. Her chest tightened, her steps slowed. She wanted to turn back, but then she saw him, the human. He stood, near a stall, bargaining with the merchant. He looked simple in his worn jacket, but his presence felt stronger than the rest. When he noticed her, his lips curved into a small smile. He raised a hand in greeting as if she was not a monster but an equal. Her cheeks grew warm. She hesitated but walked toward him. His calm eyes met hers. You came out today, he said. That is good. Before she could answer, a harsh laugh rose behind them. A group of her kind, males and females, gathered nearby, their eyes cruel, their mouths filled with venom. Look, one shouted, pointing at her. The giant found a pet human. Another sneered. Careful, little man, she will crush you if she tries to love you. The group erupted in laughter. Her hands shook, her chest burned. Shame crawled up her throat. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. The whispers of the past grew louder in her head. Too big. Not wanted. Not breeding material. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the crowd. Enough. His voice was steady, but there was steel inside it. She deserves respect, more than any of you. The laughter grew louder. One male stepped closer, smirking. Respect? For her? She is useless, too large. No man of our kind will touch her. And you, human, are a fool to defend such a thing. Her eyes filled with tears. She wanted to beg the human to stop, to leave her. Why risk himself for her? But he didn't move. His shoulders squared, his gaze hard. You are blind, he said firmly. You look at her and see only size. I look at her and see strength. I see someone who survived your cruelty. That is more than any of you can claim. The group faltered. For a moment, the crowd around the marketplace grew silent. Whispers spread like fire. A human was defending her, openly, without fear. Her heart pounded. His words struck deep. They felt like shields against the sharp daggers of laughter. For the first time, she was not standing alone, but the cruelest of them stepped forward, a female with sharp eyes and a cruel smile. Then prove it, human, she hissed. If she is worthy, claim her as your mate. Show us she is not worthless. Show us she is not a freak. Gasps rippled through the market. All eyes turned to the human and the alien woman. Her breath caught. Her whole body froze. Her people had turned her shame into a public game. She wanted the ground to swallow her. The human should walk away now. He should deny it. He should laugh with them. That is what everyone always did, but he didn't. He turned his head slightly, his eyes finding hers. His gaze was steady, kind. Unshaken, he didn't speak the words she feared. Instead, he said calmly, "I do not play games with cruel voices." He reached out and touched her arm gently. "She does not need your approval to matter." The crowd muttered. Some laughed. Nervously, others shifted uneasily. The bold female hissed, "Then you are weak." "Human." "Perhaps," he said softly, "but weakness is better than cruelty." His words silenced them. The group scattered slowly, muttering, throwing glances of hate and confusion. But their laughter faded. Their poison lost its strength. In the face of his calm defiance, she stood frozen, her chest tight, her breath shaky. The warmth of his hand still lingered on her arm. She looked down at him, her voice breaking. "Why do you do this? Why risk yourself for me?" He looked up at her, eyes clear. "Because no one should carry shame forced on them by others because I see you." Her heart trembled. The words wrapped around her soul like light in the darkness. For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible, but deep inside, fear still whispered. The cruelty of her people wasn't gone. Their laughter would return, louder and sharper, and now they would see the human as a target too. She knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. A storm was coming. She could feel it in her bones. As she followed the human away from the market, one thought echoed in her chest. "If he stays near me, they will hurt him too. But why does my heart wish he would never leave?" The market was still buzzing after the scene. Whispers followed, the human and the tall alien woman as they left. Eyes burned into their backs. Some laughed, some shook their heads. Some stared in quiet shock. A human standing against her people? It was something no one had seen before. The alien woman's steps were heavy. Her heart still raced from the cruel laughter. Her people's voices echoed inside her mind, louder than the noise of the market. She wanted to tell the human to go, away, to leave her to her shame. But when she looked at him walking beside her, steady and calm, her words froze. He noticed her silence. "You don't have to explain yourself to them," he said. "Their cruelty doesn't define you." Her throat tightened. She shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. They will not stop. They will make you their target now, too." He stopped walking and turned to face her. His eyes met hers, unflinching. "Let them try," he said. "I'm not afraid of them." Her breath caught. He was small compared to her, smaller compared to her people. And yet his voice carried a weight she had never known. How could such a fragile-looking human stand taller than any of them? Before she could answer, the sound of footsteps surrounded them. The group from the market had followed, their faces twisted with anger and pride, wounded by his defiance. "You dare speak against us, human?" One male hissed. "You protect a freak and insult your betters?" Another sneered. "She will never be worth anything, not as a mate, not as a mother. Why waste your breath?" Her chest tightened. She gripped her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Her body trembled with shame and fear. She wanted to pull the human away, to shield him from the storm she had lived with all her life. But before she could move, he stepped forward, his stance firm, his voice steady. "I waste nothing," he said. "I see someone you all have broken with your words, and I won't let you keep breaking her." The aliens laughed cruelly. Their voices echoed in the narrow street. "You think you can stop us? You think your small body and loud words matter?" His jaw tightened. His hand curled into a fist, but he didn't raise it. Instead, his voice cut through their laughter like a blade. "Yes, I do, because your strength is nothing without compassion, and your pride is nothing but weakness disguised as power." The words struck like fire. The crowd hesitated, murmurs rippling among them. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others grew angrier. The boldest of them stepped closer, towering over him, sneering down. "You are nothing here, human," he spat. "You don't belong, and neither does she." For a moment, silence hung heavy. The alien woman's heart pounded. She expected the human to back away, to bend. But he didn't. He lifted his chin, his voice ringing with calm defiance. "Maybe I don't belong here," he said. "But she does. And no matter how loud you laugh, you can't erase her worth." Gasps broke from the small crowd that had gathered to watch. A human speaking such words, standing firm against a group of larger aliens. It was a sight that none expected. Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hand against her chest. Her heart ached with something new, something she couldn't name. The group leader snarled, his pride shattered. He raised his hand as if to strike the human, but before the blow could land, the tall alien woman moved. Her arms swept out, blocking the strike. Her towering form cast a shadow over the human. Her eyes burned with a strength she had never shown before. Enough, her voice thundered, louder than she ever thought she could speak. The crowd froze, stunned. For the first time, she didn't hide. She didn't bow her head. She stood tall, her body no longer a burden but a shield. Her people stared at her. Some sneered, some laughed nervously, but others looked shaken. They had never seen her stand for herself, never seen her raise her voice. The human stepped beside her, his voice calm but unyielding. You see, she is not weak. She has always been strong. You were too blind to notice, the group muttered among themselves. Some walked away, frustrated, others lingered, glaring. But the power of their laughter had broken. It no longer pierced as deep. The alien woman's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. She looked down at the human, her voice trembling. Why do you keep standing for me? You don't even know me. He looked up at her, his expression soft. I don't need to know you fully to see your pain, and I won't stand by while you are crushed under it. Her heart shook again. Tears spilled from her eyes, not of shame, this time, but of something warm, something alive. For years she had carried silence, letting the cruel laughter define her. But tonight, with a single human's stand, something inside her had changed. She whispered, almost too soft to hear. Maybe I am more than they say. The human gave a small nod. You are, he said simply. The crowd had scattered now, the air calmer. But deep inside, she knew this was not the end. Her people would not forget his defiance. They would return, sharper, crueler. Yet as she walked beside him, her steps lighter than before, she thought one dangerous, fragile thought. If I let myself believe him, will it break me again? Or will it set me free? That night the alien woman sat alone in her shelter. Her heart was restless, her mind kept replaying the scene at the market. His voice, his courage, the way he stood between her and the cruel laughter. She had lived her whole life bowing her head, hiding from the eyes of others, but today she had lifted her voice. Today she had stood tall, not because of her own strength, but because of him, the human. The night wind slipped through the cracks in her shelter. Carrying the cold inside, she wrapped her shawl around her body, but it was not enough. Her kind had thick skins, but her spirit had grown fragile over the years, and tonight she shivered more from loneliness than the cold. A soft knock echoed. On the wooden frame of her door she froze. Fear struck her heart. Was it her people come to shame her again? Slowly she pulled the cover aside. It was him, the human. His face lit by the faint glow of the market's dying lamps, his eyes calm, his hands carrying a small bundle of food. I thought you might need this, he said gently, holding it out. Her throat tightened. She stepped back. Why are you here? She asked, her voice shaky. They will see you, they will mock you too. He gave a small smile. Let them mock. Their words don't break me, and they should not break you. She looked at the bundle in his hands, then back at his eyes. A war raged inside her, fear pulling one way, a strange warmth pulling the other. With trembling hands, she took the food, whispering, Thank you. He nodded, but he didn't leave. Instead, he stepped inside, ducking under the low roof. The space felt smaller with his presence, but also warmer. She sat by the small fire pit. He sat across from her. Their eyes met in the flickering light. For a long moment, silence filled the shelter, heavy but not empty. Finally, she spoke, her voice low. You don't understand. I can hurt you, my body. It is too large, too heavy. If I come close, I could crush you. Her words trembled with fear. Her hands gripped the shawl tight, as if to hide herself from him. But he shook, his head slowly, his voice soft but steady. You will not hurt me, she blinked. How can you be so sure? He leaned closer, his eyes never leaving hers. Because I can see it in your eyes, you are gentle even with all your pain. You are not dangerous to me. Her chest tightened. Her breath grew uneven. No one had ever looked at her this way. Not with disgust, not with mockery, but with calm trust. The fire crackled, the shadows danced across the walls. Slowly, almost without thinking, she leaned forward, her huge frame casting a shadow over him. She stopped, fear freezing her. I shouldn't. But before she could pull back, he reached out and placed his hand on hers. His touch was small compared to her, but it was steady, warm, real. Her heart shook violently. Her body trembled. Tears stung her eyes. Why do you touch me like this? She whispered. His answer came without hesitation. Because you need to feel you are not alone. The words broke her. Her tears spilled, falling silently down her face. She lowered her head, unable to hide the storm in her chest. Slowly, he stood and stepped closer. His arms reached around her, wrapping as far as they could. It was clumsy. Her body was so much larger than his, but still he held her, his head pressed against her chest, his arms squeezing tight. At first she froze. Her mind screamed she would crush him, break him. But then she felt the rhythm of his heart against hers, steady and strong. His warmth spread through her cold skin. His embrace was not fear, not pity, but comfort. She let out a trembling breath. Her hands rose slowly, carefully. She wrapped her long arms around him, pulling him against her body. For the first time in her life, she embraced someone without shame. In that fragile moment, she whispered, I thought no one would ever touch me. No one would ever want me. His voice was muffled against her chest but clear. They were wrong. The words echoed in her ears, filling the cracks in her heart. Her tears wet his hair, but she didn't let go. She didn't want to. The night stretched on, the fire burned low, but neither of them moved. They stayed locked in that strange, secret embrace. A bond forming between them that neither could explain. When dawn's light began to creep through the cracks, she finally pulled back, her eyes red from crying, her lips trembling. If they find out, she whispered, they will hate you for this. He gave a small smile, tired but calm. Let them, I don't fear their hate, I only fear you believing them again. Her heart trembled. She wanted to speak, to confess the storm inside her chest, but fear sealed her lips. Instead, she simply nodded. As he left her shelter, she pressed a hand against her chest. Her heartbeat was fast, restless, but not from shame. This time, it was something new, something frightening and beautiful. And as she watched his figure disappear into the morning light, one thought whispered through her soul. Why do I wish he would never leave my side? The morning after their secret embrace, the alien woman woke with her heart still trembling. She had barely slept. Her mind replayed every detail, the warmth of his arms, the sound of his voice, the way he said, they were wrong. She pressed her hands to her chest, as if trying to hold that warmth inside her. For years she had lived in silence, convinced she was unwanted, convinced her body was a curse. But one human had shaken all of that with a single night of kindness. The marketplace was busy again. Voices shouting, the smell of cooked food drifting through the air. She moved carefully, her shawl pulled tight. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching, hoping, and then she saw him, the human. His jacket dusty from travel, his hands full of supplies, but his face lit with the same steady calm as always. When his eyes met hers, he smiled. Not the polite smile of a stranger, but the warm smile of someone who remembered. Her chest tightened. She felt her steps move on their own, pulling her toward him. But before she could speak, harsh laughter rang again from the edge of the street. Look, the giant returns, a male voice sneered, and her little human pet follows her. The cruel voices stabbed at her heart, old wounds tearing open. She froze, shame flooding her chest. But the human only glanced at her, his voice calm. Ignore them. They do not matter. Her lips trembled. But they never stop. she whispered. No matter where I go, their laughter follows me. The human's jaw tightened. He placed his hand gently on her arm. Then let me follow you too. Their laughter will mean nothing if you let me stand beside you. Her heart raced. His words pressed deep into her. She wanted to believe. She wanted to hold on to him, but fear whispered, what if he is only kind for now? What if he leaves like everyone else? That night she returned to her shelter, but he followed, carrying another bundle of food. When they sat by the fire, silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. Finally she broke it, her voice raw. Why do you keep coming back? Why bring me food? Why stand with me? Why risk their anger? He looked at her across the firelight, his eyes steady. Because you matter to me. Her breath caught. The words struck her heart like a thunderbolt. She stared at him, trembling. You don't mean that, she whispered. You can't mean that. Look at me. Look at what I am. I am looking at you, he said firmly. And I don't see what they see. I see someone strong, someone beautiful. Her eyes widened. Tears blurred her vision. She shook her head violently. No, I am not. I was told all my life. Too big, too heavy, not breeding material, no one wants a body like mine. His voice dropped low but sharp with anger. They lied. She froze, staring at him. His eyes burned with truth, not pity, not games. They broke you with their words, he said. But they cannot change what you are. They cannot change the way I see you. Her lips trembled. Her breath came faster, she whispered. And how do you see me? Silence fell. The fire crackled. His eyes locked with hers, steady and unshaken. I see a woman I want, he said quietly. Her whole body shivered. The words pierced deeper than anything she had ever heard. She lowered her gaze, her hands gripping, her shawl so tight it almost tore. You can't want me, she whispered. I will break you, crush you, ruin you. He rose slowly, moving closer, his hand lifted, brushing the side of her face. She froze, her breath sharp. His touch was gentle, warm, steady. You will not break me, he said softly. And you could never ruin me. Her tears spilled, hot down her cheeks. Her lips parted, words caught in her throat. For years she carried silence, but now the truth forced itself free. I want to be wanted, she whispered, her voice trembling. I want to be touched. I want to feel like I matter. The words felt dangerous, but once spoken, she could not take them back. The human's eyes softened. His thumb brushed away her tears. You matter, he whispered, more than you know. She leaned forward, unable to stop herself, her huge form trembling as she lowered closer. Her breath shook as her forehead touched his. Her heart beat like thunder. I should not, she whispered. I should not want this. But he whispered back, then don't call it wrong. Call it truth. The fire burned low. Shadows filled the shelter. In that fragile, trembling moment, the wall of shame she had carried all her life began to crack. For the first time she admitted it, not just to him but to herself. She wanted him. The night was silent except for the crackling of the small fire inside her shelter. The alien woman sat with her knees pulled close, her shawl slipping from her shoulders. Her heart still raced from the words she had spoken, words she thought she would never dare confess. I want to be wanted, she had whispered. And the human had not laughed. He had not turned away. Instead, his touch had been gentle, his voice steady. You matter. Now he sat across from her, his eyes calm, but burning with something deeper. The silence between them was not empty anymore, it was alive, heavy, full of unspoken longing. She trembled, her hands twisted in her lap. If I let you close, she whispered, I might hurt you. My body is too big, too heavy, I cannot be gentle. The human leaned forward, his voice soft but certain. You are already gentle. I've seen it in every word you speak, every time you hold back your pain. You will not hurt me. Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, but fear pressed hard inside her. No one has ever touched me. she whispered, her eyes wet. Not with love, not with kindness, only with cruelty. He rose slowly and crossed the space between them, kneeling at her side. His hand reached for hers, resting against her trembling fingers. His skin was warm, his touch steady. Then let me be the first, he whispered. Her breath caught. Tears spilled from her eyes. Her body shook as she looked at him, smaller than her, fragile compared to her size, and yet stronger than anyone she had ever known. He leaned closer, his forehead brushing hers. His voice was a whisper. You don't have to hide from me, not tonight. Her walls cracked. The shame that had chained her for years began to crumble. Her trembling hands lifted carefully, gently. She cupped his face between her palms, afraid she would crush him. But his eyes stayed steady, trusting. Her lips parted, her breath warm. And then for the first time in her life, she kissed. The touch was soft, clumsy, trembling, but it was real. It was hers. The fire's glow wrapped them in shadows and warmth. His arms slid around her, pulling her closer. Her heart pounded so loud she thought it might break. She pulled him against her body, her size dwarfing him. But his strength was in his embrace, in his refusal to let go. She whispered against his lips, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. He kissed her back, slow and tender. You don't need to know, just be with me. The night grew heavier, the air thick with their breaths. Her fear slowly gave way to fire. Her body no longer felt like shame. It felt alive in his arms. His touch traced her skin. His warmth sank into her bones. Every place he touched broke another chain inside her. Every word he whispered, You are beautiful, you are mine, cut away the poison her people had left in her heart. She gasped, holding him tighter. Her tears mixed with laughter, a sound she had not made in years. How can this be real? She whispered. How can you want me like this? Because I do, he said simply. Because I see you. The words melted her fear. She let herself fall into his arms, into his warmth, into the fire of love she thought she would never know. The night passed in a blur of trembling hands, whispered words and gentle fire. For the first time in her life, her body did not feel like a curse. It felt like a gift. It felt like belonging. When the fire burned low and the first pale light of dawn crept through the cracks, she lay with him against her chest. His head rested on her shoulder, his arms tight around her, her eyes closed. But her heart stayed awake. Every beat echoed with new fear and new hope. What if her people found out? What if they punished him for touching her, for loving her? She pressed her lips to his hair, whispering softly, I am afraid, but I cannot let you go. His voice, sleepy but sure, answered against her skin. Then don't. Her tears slipped, quietly. But they were not only tears of fear, they were tears of something brighter. Something she had thought forever lost. For years she believed she would never know love, never feel wanted, never carry life. But now, in the arms of a single human, the impossible had begun to feel real. And as dawn broke across the alien colony, she closed her eyes with one dangerous, hopeful thought. If love is possible, maybe life is too. Weeks passed after the night of love. The alien woman woke each morning with a new feeling in her chest, a warmth she had never known. The human never left her side. He came with food. He sat with her by the fire. He walked with her through the marketplace even when cruel eyes followed. At first she feared it was only a dream, that one day he would vanish. But each sunrise proved her wrong. He was still there, steady and unshaken, his hand always ready to take hers, his voice always calm against her storm. Yet something strange began to happen. Her body, the body her people once mocked as useless, began to change. She felt tired more often. Her steps grew slower. A new heaviness stirred inside her. One morning, as dawn lit her shelter, she pressed her palm against her stomach. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. For the first time in her life, she felt the faintest flutter of life inside her. Her heart pounded, her knees grew weak. Tears filled her eyes. It cannot be, she thought. My people said it was impossible. They said I could never carry life. The human entered carrying firewood. He noticed her trembling form. "What is it?" he asked quickly, setting the wood down. Her lips parted, but no words came. She took his hand, pressing it gently against her stomach, her eyes locked with his, shimmering with disbelief and fear. "There is life," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Inside me. There is life." For a moment, silence filled the shelter. His eyes widened, his hand trembling as he felt the faint movement beneath her skin. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face, a smile filled with wonder. "You are carrying," he whispered, his voice breaking. "A child. Our child." Her tears spilled. She shook her head. "No, it cannot be. They said my body was too wrong, too big, too broken. They said I would never." Her voice cracked. "I believed them all my life." He cupped her face in his hands, wiping her tears, his voice firm but tender. "They lied to you. You were never broken. Look, inside you is proof. Proof they were wrong." She clutched his hands, her whole body trembling. "I am afraid," she whispered. "If they find out, they will hate me more. They will hate you too." He shook his head. "Let them hate, they cannot take this from us." His eyes burned with certainty. "This life inside you is ours, and no one can deny it." Her heart shook violently. For years she carried shame, and now inside her grew a miracle, the very thing she was told would never happen. The news spread faster than she expected. Her people noticed her glow, the change in her steps. Whispers ran through the colony. "The giant is with child. It is impossible. Whose is it?" Mockery turned to shock, then envy, then anger. The same voices that once laughed now burned with disbelief. They could not understand. They would not accept. One evening, as the crowd gathered in the market, the cruelest female confronted her, eyes sharp with rage. "This is a lie," she spat. "Your body could never carry life. You are a freak. This cannot be true." The alien woman trembled, her hand resting on her stomach protectively. Shame threatened to rise again. But before she could bow her head, the human stepped forward, his voice steady. "It is true," he said clearly, loud enough for all to hear. "She carries life, and it is mine." Gasps spread through the crowd. Shock rippled across their faces. A human claiming her? A human daring to stand as her mate? The cruel female sneered. "Impossible. A human with her. You mock us all." But the human's voice grew stronger, unwavering. "I do not mock, I love." He reached for the alien woman's hand, lacing his fingers with hers. "I chose her, and she chose me. And together we created what you all said was impossible," the crowd muttered, anger mixing with awe. Some sneered, but others looked shaken. The truth was before their eyes. The giant they mocked now carried life, a miracle born from the very man they dismissed as small and weak. The alien woman's chest swelled. Tears blurred her vision, but this time they were not tears of shame. They were tears of pride. For the first time in her life, she did not hide. She stood tall, her hand in his, her stomach carrying proof of love. She turned to the crowd, her voice strong. "All my life you told me I was worthless, too big, too wrong, never meant for love, never meant for life." She pressed her hand against her stomach, her eyes fierce. "But you were wrong. This life inside me is proof, and no cruelty can take it away." The crowd fell silent. Some lowered their eyes, others turned away. The cruel voices were still there, but they no longer pierced her. She looked down at the human, her heart swelling. Her voice dropped to a whisper only for him. "You gave me what I thought I would never have." He smiled softly, his thumb brushing her hand. "You gave it to yourself. I only held you long enough for you to see it." She leaned into him, her tears falling freely. For years she lived in chains of shame, but now she carried a miracle, carried proof that she was never broken. And as the stars lit the night sky above, she whispered to him, her voice filled with love, "You did more than love me. You gave me life. His arms wrapped around her, steady and sure. No, he whispered, back. You gave me life too. Together they stood, two souls once worlds apart, now bound forever by love and the miracle within.